Hey guys, I'm actually doing this video in response to one of my fellow modelling buddies, well in fact one of my oldest modelling buddies. Excuse me, the camera's still leaning a little bit here. Did the other day, and I've only just saw it a couple of days ago, though he posted the video I think around about a week ago. It's from Mike Coen's video of hobbies and interests other than what you do in the modelling community. Um, and Mike asked the question of, he'd like to see what other interests we have as well as modelling. Well, Mike, in response to your video, I thought I'd do one as well. I mean, to me, modelling is an art form in itself, and I've always had a bit of an artistic streak in me. I mean, it's something that's run throughout the veins of my family's blood, to be honest with me. What am I saying with me? Definitely having a blonde moment there. Anyway, I've always had a bit of an artistic streak, as I say, which runs in the family line. I mean, my late uncle Eric had it. He was a prolific commercial artist. My father was a bit of an artist. He, at one time, was a commercial artist. And like me, he was into his modelling. With hence where I got it from. But in that form, it's a hobby whereby some people who've got an artistic streak who like to be creative follow the hobby. Now, as I say, I've always had a bit of a creative streak within me, and which runs in the blood of my family. Not only on my father's side, which is quite prominent, because my cousin Andrew's does some brilliant watercolor paintings in his time when he's got time on his hands. And I mean, my cousins on my mother's side, they're very creative as well in their own way. So I used to dabble quite a bit in regard to drawing and artistry. So I thought I'd show you some of my past artwork, which might interest you. I mean, as you know, I'm a bit of a one for my sci-fi, specifically Doctor Who, and I did these quite a few years ago, around about 2009, which I think was the year I started to get back into the hobby of model making. But before that, I was into me drawing for a bit. I must admit, it's been quite a while since I last put pencil to paper, but I might get back into it again. This one, as anybody can, I don't know if anybody can recognise this character, is William Hartnell, who was the first ever Doctor Who. I took this from a still in a magazine. It wasn't easy to do because he's got quite distinctive features, but I think I captured him pretty well. And then shortly after that, I did his successor, Patrick Troughton. I think this was drawn so around about the same, well, about 2 months later, after I'd done my William Hartnell one. And he was the second Doctor. He was the first one to reprise the role and take over from William Hartnell. So I think I caught him pretty well in that one. And I've always had a bit of a thing for military history, and this is one I did many, many years ago. I think it was about 19... Oh, crikey, let's have a look at the date. Crikey, yeah, February 1987. Shows you how old this one is. It's a picture of Ark Royal 4. She was the fourth ship to bear the name. She served quite valiantly from 1955 until her retirement in 1978. She did have a sister ship, HMS Eagle, but funnily enough, they kept Ark Royal in service when Eagle was actually in a far better, fitter state to carry on, but she wasn't modernised to take on Phantoms, Buccaneers, etc. She was paid off, I think, around about 1972 and used as a spare source to keep the Ark Royal going, and was just laid up in Devonport Harbour, Plymouth Harbour for, hang on, I think she retired in 72, and then she was towed away to be scrapped in 1978. So it was about 6 years Eagle was used for spares to keep Ark Royal going until she was eventually paid off in 1978. So this was one of her taken from a photograph in 1959 before she was refitted. But I think I caught her pretty well. It took me quite a while actually to do this one, and I was so proud of it. I ended up getting it framed, as you can see here. So yeah, at the moment I've got no sort of space to put it up on at the moment, so I keep it stored away normally. And I thought I'd show you some of the artwork I got out. This one was a pastel I did of the old Saturn rocket, Saturn V rocket. I did, oh god, that must be back in the 80s again. And I was just experimenting with pastels at the time, but I think again I caught that one pretty well. And then shortly after that, I don't know if anybody remembers Jeff Wayne's version of War of the Worlds, the musical version. This is one of the Martians war machines from the actual record, as you can see here. I think I caught that one pretty well as well, as though it's supposed to be on sort of twilight, as it were, as the sun's going down, etc. So yeah. And then this was one I did of a life still drawing in Windsor Great Park, because they've got some old Roman ruins there. Sorry about that, the kids are playing outside, it's the neighbours' kids. I think I did this one around about 2002. So that was virtually up the road from where I lived. I mean, it's a bit further now from where I'm living currently, but then I was only up the road, so I went and did that on a very hot sunny day. And funnily enough, a little while later, this is of a little boathouse on the lake, of Virginia Water Lake. I did a rough sketch there one day. It didn't come out too bad by the looks of it. As I say, sometimes less is more, as they say, but there you go. This was one I did years and years ago in 1983. It was one of Cliff Richard. I don't know if anybody knows of him. Yeah. I don't know what inspired me to do it, but it came out well. It was a mixture of a little bit of charcoals as well as pencil, but I was pretty chuffed with that one. And this one was one of a MiG, is it MiG 15? Taken during, I think, was one of the Arab wars out there. I think when Egypt, I think it was the Yom Kippur War, shot was taken. So as you can see, the MiG-15 is scurrying ahead, and they've obviously let bombs or a tank's gone off in the background there, I don't know. This was, I don't know if anybody remembers Coen Russell. She was an old pastry girl on the Sun. Sadly, she succumbed to cancer. Lovely girl. Yeah, very sad that was, but I think again I caught her likeness very well. And I did this one around about March 1985. My God. This was a commission I did for my late Uncle Pete, from a painting of, well, the docks at Liverpool Harbour. I mean, this is a photocopy of it. I mean, I think my cousin's got the original stored in his house somewhere when my uncle's house was cleared of personal possessions. He took it into his possession, and sometime I'll probably get it back. But I think this took me around about 6 weeks. I did it from a painting I bought from a charity shop. And the only reason I did it was because my Uncle Pete used to get shipped from here when he was doing his national service. So as you can see, you've got the Liver building in the background, etc. And this was taken around about the 1950s, as it were. Yeah, there you go. And this was one I did a portrait of a very dear friend of mine. Well, in fact, it was an old girlfriend of mine, Julie Mallinson. I don't know, I just got inspired to do it from a photograph I had of her. So yeah, I think I over accentuated the eyebrows a little bit, but there you go. So I think I caught the general likeness of her very well. I must get in touch with Jules actually. And this one is a commission I did for, well, a work colleague of mine. In fact, she's now my manager, Vicky Khan. This was done when we were both working at the old Bental store, and I think she asked me to do a commission of her. So Vicky's got it still, I think, hanging up in a new flat now with a partner. But yeah, it came out really, really well. I think I did that when around about 2012. Yeah, that's when I was on. Oh, when I was recovering from a heart attack. So yeah, I started getting back into the art then. This was one I did for my friend Jules. I think she was writing a book or something, and this is just a copy of it. I think she's got the original, if I'm right. I was really chuffed at how these came out. I mean, this took me about a month or two to do, and it was from various photographs she'd sourced of lions at Longleat, I think. So yeah, I was really, really pleased at how that came out. So yeah, I think there's just a few copies I've got of it there. I don't think I've got any more underneath. Because at some time or other I was going to get one of these framed. Yep, I think that's that one. Where is it? Hang on. Have I got others? Yes, I have. This is one I did of my late Auntie Margaret. She passed away, believe it or not, a year to the day since to my dad, which was on the 19th of August 2008. Lovely woman she was. I did this for my cousin actually, just as a little memento for him. I think he's still got it hanging up in his house site at New Malden. So yeah, there you go. Again, I've got more copies. Oh, that's the original. This is from my friend Anna Doman. I don't know if I did that as a commission or not. I'm not sure. I think I was just doing it for myself at the time. But again, she's a friend of mine. I've kept in touch from my Bentals days. So if you see that, Anna, there you go. Is there anything else under here? Oh, hang on. Yes, this was another commission I did for my late Uncle Pete of St Paul's Cathedral. This took me absolute ages. I think it took me altogether around about 4 months. And it was just all the detail in the brickwork and everything just took so damn long, and my arm was aching. This was around about January 2009 I did this for him. And again, as I say, my cousin's got the original actually at his place when my uncle passed away. So there you go. Haven't got anything else under here. Oh yes, this was one I did for my old housemate Jan as a birthday present, because he was very much into his MotoGP and motorbikes. And this is one of Valentino Rossi, or as we all know him, the Doctor. And not the Doctor, if you know what I mean, with fish fingers and custard, but there you go. Sorry, I was doing my Matt Smith impression here, got carried away. I did that around about August 2009 when I was living at my old house, which I dearly miss. And this was actually one of my housemates who lived there, Dee. We were very good friends, almost like brother and sister actually, believe it or not. And I did this for her as a little going away present for when she moved back to South Africa, because she was getting married. Yeah, I miss Dee, I must admit. I haven't spoken to her in ages, and unfortunately we lost contact shortly after she went back to South Africa. As far as I know, she's still happily married to her husband. But yeah, I'd love to get in touch with her again. Must admit, this one is my favourite. I mean, it's almost like a photograph, you know. I mean, the work I put into this one, this was my 4th attempt because I was just trying to get the features and everything spot on. So I was very proud of that one. I think I did that in 2010. Yeah. Oh well, there you go. Is there anything else? Oh yes, this is another favourite of mine. And I gave that to D as well because obviously that's South Africa's national animal. That was around about May 2010 because she was moving into a new flat around the corner then. And then obviously 5 months later, she ended up meeting her future husband. So yeah, Mum's got a copy of this actually hanging up in her house. So that took me one afternoon at an old girlfriend's of mine. I just took it out the Daily Telegraph and just sat down and drew it. So yeah, really proud of that one. I was really chuffed with that one. Was there anything else? Oh, this was one of somebody's dog I did. That was going to be a commission, and well, it all just went pants up, unfortunately. But it was my first commission in a while. It came out really well, actually, compared to the photograph. I think I really caught the character of the dog. So yeah, I think his name was Charlie. That was it, Charlie. He was a crossbreed, I think, between an Alsatian and a Labrador. There you go. Oh, this was one I did of Lewis Hamilton. It's not brilliant, but it's not bad. It was well, I think that was virtually in his first year of F1 racing. I think shortly after he won his first championship. So yeah. And one of the professor again. I think that is about it. I've got another one to do. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's my sort of other interest, as it were, from modelling. I mean, as I say, I haven't put pencil to paper in Christ knows how long. But I may well pick it up again. I probably ain't going to get the time now because I'm in about a week's time, just over a week's time, I go back to work. So, well, that's what we're hoping anyway. Provided nothing different goes wrong, because obviously things you're trying to get planned with this corona crisis is not certain. But there you go. It's looking like we're going back to work though, so there you go. Now, what else occupies my time? Well, as you know, I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek, so I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've got most of the films, and I've just started collecting all the Clone Wars. I'm going to start watching it from that one because this is set sort of in between Attack of the Clones, which was the second prequel, leading up to Revenge of the Sith, you know, where Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. And obviously I've got the most up-to-date one, which is The Rise of Skywalker, which is virtually the end of the saga. Although I've heard rumours they are going to do another trilogy, but it's set around about 200 years before all of this happens. So we will see. And I'm a bit of a Bond fan, so I've got all the Bond films, right from Dr. No up to Spectre. So here you are. And as you all know, I am a big Doctor Who fan. I've got a lot of audio plays. These are all the ones with Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor, because basically, whilst the programme was off air, a company called Big Finish started producing all audio plays of former Doctors, from, I think, Tom Baker up to Sylvester McCoy, and they're still producing them actually, and obviously Paul McGann as well. And in fact, at the moment they are doing box sets of the Time War, which is coming towards the end of the Eighth Doctor's tenure, as it were. And I've heard that they're also going to do the story before Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor, regenerates into Paul McGann. So there you go. And I've obviously got all the series up to date, including a few spin-offs such as Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures with the late Elizabeth Sladen, bless her, and the current series as well as the past, which are all in chronological order along the back there as well. And I'm also into my military history, as you know, and I've got a few sort of documentaries. I mean, you got this one here, which is about the old Ark Royal 4 series in the 70s called Sailor. And believe it or not, I've actually been watching an old drama series from the BBC Vaults called Warship, and that was made around about 73 to 74. Funny enough, in the second series, you see the old Eagle at anchor in Plymouth. There you go. And I like my war movies. That's another thing that passes my time. Got a few on here, classic ones such as D-Day, 6th of June, Longest Day, Bridget Remagen from Ryan's Express, Battle of Britain, Patton, Attack, which I've never seen but my father rated, and A Bridge Too Far, which is about the Battle of Arnhem. So yeah, got those. That's a series I've not watched yet, Submarine Patrol. I think that was made around about late 80s, early 90s. And then obviously you got this one, which was on National Geographic, Ark Royal, though they got a picture of a blooming Type 42 destroyer in front, which seems a bit weird. But that was of the last Ark Royal 5, which was the on the ski ramp, or through deck cruiser as they called it. I think it was filmed in her last deployment, so yeah. And obviously got the classic ones such as Band of Brothers, Pacific, Lancaster Skies I've not seen yet, Spitfire, that is an awesome documentary. Beautiful photography in it as well. I would heartily recommend, if you haven't downloaded it or got the DVD, do. It's fascinating, it really is. Another classic series, World at War, which was narrated by the late great Laurence Olivier. This is a good one as well. I would hardly recommend. It's the only colour film of a Lancaster squadron during World War II. And it was filmed around about November 1944 at the former RAF Hemswell. And I think 150 and 97 Squadron were based there then. And I would very much like to build a Lanc in one of the squadron markers that was based there, to be honest with you, if I could get hold of it. I did see them once, but can't get hold of them again for some reason. But yeah, it's a very interesting. It's only about an hour long, but it's actually narrated by David Saville, who incidentally is on Warship, one of the cast members. And it's a really interesting sort of documentary, and the colour footage is very unique for its time. So yeah, that's really interesting to watch. And another thing, I love Miami Vice. I loved it when it came out. I've got the entire series there. So that's from 1985 to 88, I think it was filmed. And I like listening to classical music to help me relax if I'm modelling. And I'm a big Al Pacino fan. I got most of his films on DVD, including those down there. Endeavour, which is, I don't know if anybody's heard of Inspector Morse, is set in his early years. I think I got the first 5 series of that. And Morse itself, so that was by the late great John Thaw. Some of you may or may not have heard of him from the days of the Sweeney. Brilliant actor, and funnily enough, I've actually got a signed photo from him in my autograph collection, and that is brilliant. If anybody wants to know about the F1 driver of his time, Senna, the documentary is brilliant. It really is. And then I've got a few books. Some of these I use for reference material. I've got 2 on Michael Whitman here. I did have a load of these, but I've just decluttered a bit recently. Tank Men, I've got to read that. A few modelling books that my cousin gave to me, and then you've got 2 other books there. Darkest Hour, which actually came with the DVD when it was released. Painting the Sand, that's about an army sniper, British Army sniper. And also I've got American Sniper, which was bought by all my work colleagues at Bentall's as a birthday present. And it's actually in the words of Chris Carl himself, who sadly was killed by a guy who was trying to help with his rehabilitation, and he was on a firing range, and the guy turned around and basically shot him, which is very sad. Enemy Coast Ahead, which is actually Guy Gibson's own personal account of the Dams raid. So I've got all my reference books at the bottom here. Oops, sorry about that. I mean, modelling, and a few. Well, that's another thing I like reading about is autobiographies. I mean, these ones all personally signed by the author, including this one by Douglas Bader. That was one of my dad's that I actually have kept and treasured, because it's actually signed by Douglas himself, bless him. These I've got to read at some stage. There's a few books on the First War, because obviously I've got a connection via my late grandfather, who was Frederick Avery, who was actually in the North Yorks, I think, around about the time of the Battle of the Somme. He was at Ypres and he was at Passchendaele. So hence my interest in the First World War. And this is fascinating because it basically, you got every object that was used in the First War that they retrieved and the history behind it, etc. I snapped this up at my old store when it was closing for about £1. Or was it two? No, it's £5.99. That's how much they were basically offering for it. So I wasn't going to snap that up. That was in the last few days of the old store closing, and this one was bought by me by our former friend, Voices from the Front, which is the first-hand accounts from the soldiers themselves. So yeah, I think that's about it, actually, guys. Yeah, that's about it. That's basically covered everything I wanted you to know about my other interests as well as modelling. So I hope that sort of fills your curiosity, Mike, as to what my other interests are. One thing I was going to say, more Doctor Who, and I did used to collect all the figures of all the Doctors, but as I say, that TARDIS used to operate and hum, but unfortunately the battery compartment leaked and it no longer works. I mean, this one's pretty cool, it still works. Hang on, if I turn on the little switch, you got the sound of it. Is that cool, or is that cool? And if you put it on the ground, it's as though it's landing. A gimmick, but it's a bit of fun. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was the 11th Doctor's TARDIS. Yeah, I often wondered where that had gone to, but there you go. Yes. God, I'm doing Matt Smith again. So yeah, it's a bit gimmicky, but hey, there you go. But now I'm going to get back onto these, because that's all me all tracks for me Panzer 2. So yeah, there you go. That's basically all my interest, etc. By the way, Got some hand-signed photos from all the former Doctors there, including the late great John Hurt. Yeah. Some are original, some are printed, but you know, it's something that decorates a room, keeps me interested. With me sci-fi geek, and there's some of my old Bandai Star Wars figures. I'm a bit of a Star Wars nerd, as you know. So there you go. So I'm just gonna clear all this up, put it back into its file, and then I'm going to catch up, build me thrall tracks, and then watch this, which is me Warship. I'm on the second series. I think there was only ever 2 series made of this, so yeah, it's good for its time, even though it was made in the early 70s. That's David Saville there, by the way. That's the guy who narrated that one about the bombers, the DVD I just showed you. So there you go, Mike. Hope that sort of satisfies you. Oh, there's one thing I did forget. I've got a few Xbox games as well. That's another thing that passes my time, although I've not touched them in ages, to be honest with you. All sort of World War II shooters mainly, apart from that old James Bond one. There you go. So there you have it. Oh, and I've got that one to watch at some time. It's about the old Polish 303 Squadron, which was one of the highest scoring kill squadrons during the Battle of Britain. So yeah, Polish squadron they were too, mainly on Hurricanes. So there you go. So I could waffle on, but I won't. I don't want to bore you all to death, so there you go. Anyway, that's really it for now, and hope you enjoyed the video, Mike. Now that sort of filled your curiosity as to what other interests I've got outside my modelling, so there you go, to pass me time. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. So until the next time, get kit crazy, happy modelling, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.